couldn't get any insulin because by then I had a bad infection on my leg and I needed insulin. I'm not insulin dependent, but the infection made it really necessary for me to take it. So I had these, my legs were burning up from this infection. I was hungry. I was sick. I felt like, the banks just really did me dirty, especially Washington Mutual. They would if I put 2 checks in, they would purposely cash that, the bigger check first, and then bottom my account out and then demand overdraft fees. And then I just felt like they were doing so much dirty stuff against me. And then by the time they foreclosed on the house, Wells Fargo had it. And they just foreclosed so fast. I couldn't even short sale the house. And I just had gotten myself into this condition of having bad health, this leg infection. My fever was 103. I had no food.
Did you just walk into a bank and rob it?
So I grabbed a napkin from a Burger King napkin from behind my seat, and I wrote a note. The last straw was that my phone had broke, and I'd been paying $5 insurance on it every month. And when I called them to replace the phone, they said it'd take another $200. And I'm like, why? I've been paying insurance. That was Sprint. And so that was the last straw. So I was in the parking lot on the payphone when they told me I needed $200 more. And I was like, that's it. Walked to my car. I wrote a note. It said, this is a bank robbery. Don't make it a murder. And I parked at the Dairy Queen behind the bank in Oroville. And I walked into the credit union, my credit union. And there was an old lady that was standing at the door, and she had a little cane. And I told her, don't go in this bank. And she looked at me with this snotty look. And she's like, I told her, do not go into this bank. Because I also remember the felony murder rule. And if somebody drops dead while you're doing committing a felony, you're going to be liable for that. So I told her, no matter what, you don't go in this bank. And she was just like, ah. So she planted her little cane outside, and she stood there, and I swung the door open and went into the bank. And I swear to God, it was like I got struck deaf. It was dead silence. It was a Friday morning when I went in there, and all I could see was this big old clock going. That was the only noise I heard, was that tick, tick. And I was like, oh.
Like a movie scene. Like a movie scene.
Well, yeah, like a movie scene. So I had the ski mask rolled up over my face, and the ski mask, getting a ski mask in the summer, that's a whole different story. And so I have the ski mask rolled up on my head like a beanie. So I walk in, and it was so quiet. I was just like, oh my God, you're committed now. You have to do it. So, but I look, and there's a line to the tellers. Well, I don't like to take cuts. I remember thinking, what am I going to do? I don't take cuts. Now, mind you, I'm in the bank to rob it, but I'm like, damn, I don't take cuts in banks. What am I going to do? Wait in line? And so, because you don't think that stuff out. So I'm like, no, you're not going to wait in line. You're going to go to that counter, and you're going to slap your note down. So I walked around the little velvet ropes, and I kind of just nudged this lady that was at the window out of the way, put my note on the counter, and slid it across to the lady. And by then I'd pulled the ski mask down, right? So I have the ski mask down. I give her the note. The lady looks at me, I know to go to a young teller, an inexperienced teller. You don't want to go to a veteran teller. You don't want the manager's bank in the desk in the front. You want the manager's desk in the back. So everything was set up just right. So I passed that note to her, and she looked at me, and her eyes got real big, and I started telling her what to do. And I don't know where that even came from. I'm like, both drawers now, move. Because I know I only have 3 to 5 minutes from the time they hit that button for the response of the law enforcement to get there. So I'd seen enough cop shows and, learned a little from my class, which probably worked against me. So I'm like, move it. Well, I didn't know that in that little small credit union, they only have one drawer. They don't have the top drawer and the bottom drawer. So she runs to the teller next to her and starts getting her key to open the drawer. And the teller is like, hey. And she's like, we're being robbed. And she's like, oh, and she steps back and lets her get that drawer. Well, later on, law enforcement is like, did you tell her to go there? Did you tell her to go to the next drawer? I go, no, it was actually just a coincidence. I thought she had 2 drawers, so I told her both drawers. So then she went next door and got that other money, but I didn't tell her, because the thing is, you get a strike for each teller. That's considered a separate robbery for
Oh,
each
wow.
teller. I found out later on. So that was kind of a happy mistake. So yeah, so she gives me the money. I go outside. The old lady's still standing there indignantly. Well, it turns out that old lady had a camera phone. So that was not a good thing. She took several pictures of me exiting the bank. That's what I get for being nice. So I go through this vacant lot. I could hear like the gravel crunching under my feet. I remember I bring my own bag. So I'm carrying my bag out of the bank with the money in it and headed towards my car. I had duct tape on the license plate, ripped that off, got in my car, and this is where things go very wrong. So I go to peel out of the Tasty Freeze, and in my confusion, and like you have so much adrenaline pumping through you after that kind of thing, that instead of pulling out the exit driveway, I accidentally ended up in the drive-through. And there's a 3-foot retaining wall on the other side of the drive-through, so you can't just peel out of the drive-through. And when I looked in the rearview mirror to put the car in reverse, there was like this SUV full of giggling kids behind me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm trapped in the drive-through. So, and the lady keeps saying, welcome to Tasty Freeze. Can I have your order? And like, finally, I just turned around and I'm like, give me a root beer float. And so, I mean, there's nothing I can do, right? Like I'm in the drive-through at Tasty Freeze and it's 100 degrees and I have a hoodie and I took the mask and threw it on the seat, but like I'm sweating like a snitch at a gangster party, right? Like I'm heated anyway. So I'm like, yeah, give me a root beer float. So she says, go ahead, and pull up, but it felt like an hour before that banged up Kia ahead of me pulled up, like sputtered off. I'm like, what is he doing? Like, I kept expecting the cops to like just get me any minute, I was just terrified. And so finally that car sputters away and I pull up and she gives me the price and I just grab whatever denomination out of that big bag that I got and I hand it to her. And I see her look over this way and I'm like, what is she looking at? And she's a young girl, like 17, 18. And she's looking over at the street and I follow her gaze and there go all the police cars right past me. And then like that Crown Vic with the cherry on top behind those police cars. And she's like, wow, I wonder what happened. And I'm like, well, I don't know.